Hello back and welcome to the next episode of the Self Development with Tactics podcast. And as you might can hear, my voice is a little bit fucked because, yesterday I have slept for 5 fucking hours, which is not the thing you should be doing. And I do kind of have now the chance to really emphasize it a little bit more that your health is actually fucking valuable. Please do not be like me and do not sleep. This is the dumbest shit you could ever do. And I do not know why I am doing it either. But I do just had to do something yesterday. My scheduling software was just some kind of broke and everything wasn't quite working as it should be working. And therefore today I would have had to manually post every single post on a day, which are eight, and this is quite a lot amount. So I quite decided to just change it, and it took me until 12 a.m. actually. Yeah, 12 a.m., which is so midnight actually, which is not the best thing to do actually, because then I really didn't get too much sleep. What it actually shouldn't be like, but I do have to um Yeah, I do hope that the audio quality still is good. I just, did a little bit with the settings so that it might be a little bit better actually. And yeah, but as you can see in the background, and I'm fucking pumped for this one because this is actually one of the most valuable books, because it's actually a program, as I know, that I've ever been discussing on this whole channel. Besides, in my whole life, besides Dale Carnegie's books and so on. But we will move on with Tony Robbins' book, How to Create Change That Lasts, or How to Create Lasting Change, actually. And we will go ahead with pre-framing, where we have stopped the last time. So Tony Robbins says to tell someone in advance what to pay attention to and what it means. It's the most powerful way to change someone. The pre-framing works like the placebo effect, which is extremely powerful. I've been going through this one. We are actually going ahead with. Am I fucking? I think the pre-framing one, I've done this because it just seems to be really pre-framing, pre-framing. Blah 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 blah. Will be placing the reality. I've no nothing to do. You're gonna be. Yeah, I've definitely. Yeah, yeah. So we will just go ahead with reframing. Tony Robbins says that reframing actually happens when someone has a problem. No. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We just go ahead with this one so that you get actually the value from the last episode and additional value to it. Just to sell it a little bit more or better. So Tony Robbins says that pre-framing happens when someone has a problem and you change what it means. What things mean is determined to what you compare and contrast them to. An example of John Belushi would be, he forgot how life was when he was struggling. You make sure you never forget your roots. The ultimate frame of reference for Tony was taking his kids some of the worst places, or to some of the worst places. And this is actually a gift that maybe, even if it sounds pretty fucking dumb and just some kind of, I'm not that quite sure, really poor people have quite an opportunity or an advantage than, or compared to the rich ones or some kind in the middle ones, because they actually know what it is like to really be poor and do not have nothing. And this is actually the thing that Tony Robbins also emphasized and quite emphasizes quite often in his interviews and or speeches and so on, that not like he's saying, I came from a very poor background or something. No, totally not. But if you know his biography or just his story, you know that, he is actually from a pretty poor family. He had four dads. And so everything was a little bit, it was, and do just have to see if the audio is right, because it seems to be a little bit too seems to be a little bit too silent actually, but I do not know. So it should be fine, I guess. Maybe actually, to be quite sure, do it like this. Yeah, should be fine. So actually, he comes from a very, very poor background. He moved from home when he was 17 and then worked for his kind of mentor. And, he really has the perspective and the contrast to the life he has now, which makes him just more grateful than people who are just quite used to the luxurious life or luxury in general. Therefore, it is, a kind of opportunity if you are just, or if you were just poor, even if it's just, quite sounds a little bit dumb. But make sure you compare yourself to what empowers you and make sure what you reframe for the people you speak to align with their core values and beliefs. Yeah, totally. If you just, talk about something or compare their situation with something they do not value or that aren't their goals, nothing will work because they just be like, yeah, okay, it's something I actually do not care about, so why should I care about what you're saying? Therefore, just, really tackling or attacking their values and or beliefs is just great, because if you say like, you wanna die, but your daughter will just miss you and will just have a miserable life, maybe. And then the woman is like, which is actually an example of him, just from the upper part. And if you just really want to know this one, just go to the, not to the last episode, but the episode before, and watch it or to listen to it, whatever, or wherever you are. But then she is actually maybe like, I just, my girls and my children and my family is pretty valuable to me, so I won't kill myself, even though I want to, but for the sake of my children, I won't. Therefore, it is just really important to actually being able to do this, to, reframe someone's thought patterns or just actual thoughts. You just really kind of have to know them or kind of be able to ask them questions to really understand their world, because everyone is living in a different world. And I will just underline it now once again. We are all individuals. It is very important, really keep that in mind. We are all individuals and we all behave some kind of differently, even though, there are some kind of patterns, and also in terms of body language and all this stuff. But in general, or just in the big picture, we are all individuals. Yeah, an example would be, if I value learning and you reframe something as having fun, it's not as powerful. It's better if done with questions and after you interrupted the pattern so they pay attention. If they're in a stuck state, it won't work. Totally. This is a little bit a bad example. Maybe the next one will be better. So your friend complains about the dates he has been going to are a failure, and you say, maybe God is protecting you from these men because he has someone special lined up. And this is actually a pretty good example for the actual reframing process. So you just, put it in another context, just said it easily. Content reframing. Give some input they didn't have, or tell them something they believe is not true. In terms of something they do not have is quite like knowledge, I think. If someone just has an opinion of something and doesn't actually know the real facts, by giving him or her the real facts, this would actually be a good or fucking good opportunity to just, create another context for him or just reframe them, because then they actually have the real knowledge or the real informations, and therefore really can just do have to make a little bit. Is this working? I hope. No, a little bit too loud actually. So 1.3. This should be great. Is it great? I hope it's not too loud, because this is actually also not the best thing, but I do not have to shout, which is good. So I think this is good now, I hope. So I just wanted to say something initially. Just knowledge, because then they just have the knowledge and therefore their opinion might change, because they just thought about something differently, because they didn't know all the facts. Yeah. Deframing. Tony Robbins says deframing is when someone is caught up in something and you destroy the frame of reference. For example, someone complains about something trivial, then a guy on a wheelchair passes by and says, if you can help, as he can eat anything. So and he passes by and says, if you can help, as he can't eat anything. I don't know what this has to do with the wheelchair, but I do just think about it like, yeah, okay, somebody is just dwelling about something like their likes on Instagram or their likes on Facebook or whatever, some just really stupid shit. Then, some guy in a wheelchair comes across and be like, yeah, don't dwell around, you have your legs and you can walk and you can do sports and there's a lot I cannot do and you're actually able to do them. So just be fucking grateful for what you have, actually. An example, your child who's complaining about eating his peas and you say, there are a lot of children in the world who are starving and would love to have a piece to eat. Totally right, actually. Step 3 is interrupt the pattern. Tony Robbins says that all change is the interruption of pattern. Once you understand that, all gets easier. You interrupt the pattern and bring resources like confidence, calm, grit, etc. from other realms of the personality, and if they don't have any, from other people. People are subject to a pattern of focus and beliefs, psychology and language which puts them in a certain state and give them certain emotions. Ideally, you interrupt all three, like language by itself won't do. Yeah, just, by interrupting someone, like he's just speaking and you just interrupt them, it won't work. They might just actually be pissed off. But I do actually see now some kind of pattern, and this is the great thing. If you do know some of Tony's videos where it's just some kind of curing somebody and helping somebody, or just, helping them out of their misery, it is really then great to actually see and understand what he is doing. So I all the time thought like, yeah, okay, he is obviously doing something, but I don't know. And, it just seems to be like, yeah, okay, I don't know. But here is just everything that he does. And the first thing that, or just now, the first thing that I've just recognized, that he is actually interrupting someone by language. So it's just, when he is speaking, he just starts to speak, and often he does something like, talks about something way different than the actual person is talking about or the actual problem is. So then he's just interrupting two things with one try or with one action, like the language and his thoughts or thought patterns. But we go on and actually see if I'm quite right or not. Interrupting the pattern is key. People often fail to change because they try to change pattern before first interrupting the old one. Ideally, you want to interrupt the pattern as fast as possible. Kill the monster when it's small and before it's ingrained in the system. And therefore, yeah, it's actually kind of really hard and tough to change really old people's minds. Because, they just, are so long on this earth and they do just have the beliefs for so long, and changing them is like, yeah, it's just telling somebody that they shouldn't walk like, I don't know, bad example, sorry. So any pattern which is continually broken will eventually be changed. You have to scratch that old CD so that you can't go back. You can break the pattern physically, throw water on them, pain, slap them, take them into a more positive future, change the language pattern. Next time you feel depressed, say, "Thank God I'm not a cockroach" in Bulgaria and repeat 20 times a day. Actually a good one. So, but this is actually another thing that I kind of believe in, which is repetition. And I do think by just repeating certain things over and over and over again, in terms of you actually saying them or you listening to them, which is what I kind of have experienced with all the motivational speeches I've been really listening to, and you probably have just kind of experienced as well with music. So if you're just, listening to the same track over and over and over again, you just know the lyrics of it without actually just listening to the lyrics themselves, but just it's a byproduct of the whole listening experience. And this was the same thing as I was listening to motivational speeches. I did just have all these patterns and all these lyrics in my mind, and therefore I believe in it. This really changed my mind, because I did have all these patterns in my mind, because I knew the lyrics, I knew what part of which motivational speech comes up if I listen to them, and so on and so on and so on. And therefore, if you are struggling with motivation, on my channel, which is linked down in the actual podcast description, so not in this episode description, because there you can't click anything, and so it's not that working well. So in the podcast description, there is a link to all my social media links I have. There you have to just open it or just click on it. There will be some kind of menu to really choose where you want to go. So there's YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all this good stuff. And there I want you to choose YouTube and go to my playlist. And there you can see a playlist with all the motivational speeches I have been listening to in my really dark days, or in the days I just quite needed them, even though I just think about it would be actually good to listen them again, because it was fun. First of all, I learned a lot, and maybe I do have some kind of lost some patterns or some thoughts, which is then always good to just remember. Report and common mistakes. It's good interrupting the pattern with elegance and with rapport. Sometimes it's not possible for Tony to build relationships first, and he gotta intervene right away. But then he doesn't keep breaking pattern, but builds rapport. Or rapport is a double P, so I don't know. There is a fine line between breaking a pattern and destroying rapport. Attention not to get too offensive, but also don't make it too subtle or expected. Question. The simplest way to break someone's pattern and rewire someone's brain is with questions. Outrageous. The more outrageous and unexpected it is, the better. Something gross, bizarre, or sexual. This is actually the part where, and I maybe some of these four examples they just have written down right after this one. Might be actually the story that I'm going to tell you right now. If so, I will skip this one, but I do just really want the story. I want to tell the story by myself. So this is actually also a story. There was a guy who was suicidal and he didn't, want to live, and so Tony made just some kind of jokes of him. So he was like, he was listening to him at the first place, and then he just started smiling. So Tony was smiling, I guess, and then the other guy was smiling as well. And then he said, "Yeah, you know what? You're just fucking up the whole situation. Don't smile. You're just the really seriousness is going away. Don't do this," and so on. So he was there first of all, joking a little bit around. Then he was calming down the situation again, and was listening to him again. And then he just said, "Yeah, is it because of your red shoes?" And the guy was, "What?" No, and something like this. And then Tony said, "Yeah, like they are red. Yeah, they are red." And this is just the thing that they talk about as really destroying the pattern or intervening the pattern or the thought pattern, to be a little bit more precise, which is actually, and which actually makes sense, because he is just kind of stunned. What does he mean with if it are the red shoes or whatever, he just, the first, initially he was just thinking about being suicidal, telling his story and so on, and then something like this comes up and he's like, whoa, I don't know what's going on right now. So, but let's see. Example 1, Tony was receiving people who were okay when they walked in. Then they would sit down and started talking about their problems and getting sad and crying. And he would scream, "Hey, we don't even start here." And he would have them to convince him that they wanted to change. Okay, you can definitely see that it is a really, really thin line between actually just some kind of making them even more sad and actually just creating this kind of breaking pattern thing. Which actually, at my point of view, comes up to who you are. In terms of Tony, who is just, really famous for being able to change persons and or people or thoughts or whatever, it is quite easy for him because people just trust him first of all, and they won't get just mad at him. If you're just going up to somebody, maybe it's even your, I don't know, spouse or your friends or whatever, and you just, talk like Tony, people might not be that nice to you as well. So they might be like, yeah, just fuck up, man, and help me. Even though you want to help them, but they don't get it. But yeah, example 2, a gold medalist who's afraid of public speaking. But he is so confident when he is playing his discipline. Tony gotta interrupt the pattern of the audience being such a scary place. So he brings the positive emotions, beliefs, and psychology he has for the competitions to public speaking. That's the core of change. Interrupt the pattern and bring resources where they are needed. And I do hope, it's quite hard with these examples, especially when they are so short. But I do hope you get something out of it and you can just think for yourself of something that might be an example, or some sort of situation where you can just use it by yourself. Example 3, they bring in a patient to Tony's original teachers, John and Richard, who didn't speak and hadn't said a word for 10 years. They brought him in and said with the challenge, see what you can do with this one. The guys tell them to go out and leave them alone. John tells Richard, lock the door. Lock the door? Lock the door, shouting. And the pulse of a knife proceeds to denude the patient. Wow, now did speak. I just understand it, yeah. Because, you just have to kind of watch it as, or see it through this patient's eyes, or patient's eyes. He's like in this room, she, or whatever, doesn't know what's going on. And so he comes in the room with 2 weird guys he've never seen before, and then, and then they just say, lock the door. And I think he was just so fucking scary what will happen right now. And through this scarciness, whatever it is called, he just started to talk. Because he was scared and because it was maybe the only thing he could have done. Some sorta. Example 4, a guy whom said he was Jesus is taken to the same teachers. The guy goes, excuse me, I understand you used to be a carpenter. And he goes, yes, you are Jesus, aren't you? Yes, my son, okay, I'll be back. That's a slight pattern interrupt. He didn't introduce himself as a doctor or anything and just leaves him hanging. Now Jesus isn't so certain. Okay, I get it. It's quite hard, actually. So he goes back with the tape and brings in hired people to build a cross with giant nails. The guy asks what they are doing and Richard goes, well, you're Jesus, right? Oh yes, my son, well then you know why we are here. Barely 3 minutes and he went back to being John Jay. He took shock therapy, he took drugs, he took analysis, but he wasn't ready to be crucified. The more intense it is, the more effective it is. So you can then just, now kind of just see that interrupting a pattern is often done by really just scaring somebody, or just bringing the real truth to them, or bringing to them to their really edge, I would say. Yeah, for this guy who meant he was Jesus, the cross would actually be the worst thing. And do just imagine what they did if he was like, yeah, okay, it's okay, just nail me on this fucking cross or crucifix and everything is good. I just really want to know what they did then. With the locked door guy, yeah, I do it. It's also some kind of scarciness or whatever it is called. To the public speaking guy, I do want to read it again. So gold medalist who's afraid of public speaking, but he is so confident when he's playing his discipline. Tony got to interrupt the pattern of the audience being such a scary place. So he brings the positive emotions and beliefs and psychology he has for the competitions to public speaking. Yeah, it's not quite an example, it's just, what he did. So, yeah. Pattern recognition. When you learn to see the pattern, you can anticipate what's going to happen. We need to learn their evaluation process, noticing the state they're in, the questions they ask themselves, and the the neuro association they have. If we can help a person see how their evaluation is the source problem, we can show them a way to solve them. Yeah, that's actually true, and therefore I actually do want to just emphasize more that actually being able to ask them questions and to interact with them a little bit more is, I think, some kind of crucial, because then you just are able to understand their patterns and what their world is like. And therefore, which reminds me, actually on the upper part of this article, he was talking about like asking just really simple questions like, what's your worldview like? Do you want to live long, or some kind of thing like this? So just really basic questions, but they just kind of describe how they are seeing the world. And therefore I would also refer you to or invite you to really listen to the last episode. Step 4, define the problem in solvable terms. Somebody says they are depressed. Now they are not. No, they are not depressed. They are bored. They are living life under someone else's terms, and you redefine the situation in a way which is addressable. So an example would be, Bob wanted to kill his wife and children. Tony asks him what's a good life for him, and then tells him that he is trying to be something he is not. Tony tells him to fuck that idea of responsible father, which is shackling him. He says there is no point in waiting for something. He can get back to living the life he dreamed right now and improve the life of the people around him by being a better person. So to just summarize it, if I've just read it, some kind of shitty. He just wants to kill his wife and his children. And Tony said that, you can just not be a responsible father and just be the person you want to be, because by being the person you actually want to be, you're helping yourself and the people around you. Because I do think his wife and his fucking children are really scared of their father. He says everyone loves a comeback. It's boring having been great all the time, but the person who makes a comeback and gets even stronger, that's what everyone loves. He tells him he's a man who likes to ride and boogie, so tells him to close his eyes, imagine how it would feel to get up, give a kiss to his kids, get on his Harley, and Bob describes his surroundings, and feel the window on his face. Then he goes back and grabs his wife and makes the most passionate love he has ever done. As he speaks, Bob has the biggest grin on his face. He plays Born to be Wild, and now he's moving and dancing and singing. Therefore, if I have understood it correctly, it is also just some kind of, just asking the right questions. Like, what would a great life be for you? And just do that. Just maybe bring it in a position where you can actually be doing what you actually want to do in the position you are right now. Yeah, you have kids and you have a wife, and by fucking them over, but I do actually think that his kids are actually pretty important for him and his wife, but he's just not really happy with the whole situation. Therefore, asking him, what would you like to do, and putting it into the right position and right framework is just working. Step 3, create new empowering alternatives. Tony Robbins says that it's key to find out what vehicles people use to meet their needs. Once you know it, you must set a new empowering alternative. People need a new way of thinking, of focusing, new psychology, new beliefs, new emotions. Any behavior, thought, or belief that gets reinforced constantly will become automatic. Be on the watch for someone's words. And to change, associate pain with the current behavior and associate pleasure with the new behavior. I feel like I do have to read it again. So Tony Robbins says that it's key to find out what vehicles people use to meet their needs. So either, maybe they are drinking, maybe they are smoking, maybe they are abusive with some other shit, maybe they are going outside, maybe they are working, maybe they are hanging around with people to meet their needs, maybe they just be for themselves and watch Netflix and do some shit like this. Once you know, you must set a new empowering alternative. People need a new way of thinking, of focusing, new psychology, new beliefs, new emotions. Any behavior, thought, or belief that gets reinforced constantly will become automatic. Okay, I do think I just kind of got it. Step 6, condition it. To empt The new empowering alternatives, you must use it every day. Doing it, of course, doing is of course the simplest way, and Tony Robbins also proposes anchoring and incantations, or incantations, whatever. So an anchor is creating an association between a specific stimulus and a specific state. An anchor is created anytime someone in an intense state, like depression, anger, and or love, either positive or negative, and while they are at the peak of that state, someone constantly does anything unique. So the anchor is just, you create the anchor for yourself that when you just sit down there alone and watch your favorite episode, you are feeling good and you are relaxed. I see this as an anchor, some sort of, or I just feel like this is what an anchor means actually. So an anchor is created anytime someone in an intense state like depression, anger, or love even, either positive or negative, and while they are at the peak of that state, someone constantly does anything. At the peak of the state, someone constantly does anything unique. Okay, so create an anchor or whatever. The actually funny thing is that you might be actually listening this podcast on Anchor, and if you might know, actually it was today actually to be really honest, Spotify bought Anchor, and therefore they just was telling like they created something good for all the people who are just podcasting right now, and also for the Spotify creators and so on. So I'm quite excited what comes to me and what comes up or what they come up with. Either find someone, so to create an anchor or whatever, either find someone in a peak state or create it. You can just ask them how was it when they felt amazing. The amount of emotional intensity is key. Now consistently do something unique, and to test it, take them out of their peak state and fire the anchor. So I do now get it. It's not something like you do for yourself, some sorta, but you just create it for someone to some kind of cure them, which means that I've often seen that Tony is like snipping and some kind of clapping or some shit like this. So actually telling somebody maybe remind yourself of something that's really really positive and you really like and so on, and just snipping all the time and create something for them that's really unique, what they just never do, like maybe I don't know what would like telling yourself you're good, I'm okay, and all these things while you're snapping. Maybe this would then create an anchor. So I do just want to read it again. Sorry. Either find someone in a peak state or create it. You can't just ask them how was it when they felt amazing. The amount of emotional intensity is key. Now consistently do something unique, and to test it, take them out of their peak state and fire the anchor. Collapsing an anchor. Create a series of positive ones which are more powerful than the negative ones. Incantations, when you speak aloud with absolute certainty and you repeat it and repeat it, they can overdrive beliefs. You have to do it with your whole body and intensity and belief in it. Tony as a youngster would do that for hours and hours vibrating. An example, Tony's daughter waiting for the BF to call and was getting impatient. Then he calls and he screams at it. Then he calls and she screams at him. Then Tony explains she is conditioned him not to call. So I do just have to read again, sorry. Tony's daughter is waiting for the best friend or boyfriend, I think boyfriend, to call and was getting impatient. Okay, so this really peak state of emotions is the impatience. Makes sense. Then he calls and she screams at him. So her boyfriend calls her and she screams at him. Okay, check, I get it. Then Tony explains she is conditioning him not to call. So she just tells him not to call. Okay, but I hope you get it. I hope you get something out of it. I do not know. Step 7, relate to environment and higher purpose. Therefore, if you do not get it, and I do not get it as well, so I'm not really able to explain it to you, I do really invite you to really go to YouTube and just watch for or look for videos of Tony Robbins actually making these things, or actually kind of look them up by yourself. So like, yeah, making an anchor and all these things to, yeah, to really be sure that you understand it. Step 7, relate to environment and higher purpose. Tony Robbins says that when creating change, you must connect it to a person's highest values and help them integrate the new empowering alternatives into the environment where they actually live. Help them see how the change relates to what they value most and to what ultimately they want to accomplish. And their highest love, that's where the biggest leverage is. Totally. It might be a daughter, it might be a cause, it might be mastering an art or skill. Peer group, empowering people around. Most people's lives are a reflection of the expectations of their peer groups. Your life, or you live a life which is the reflection of the expectations of your peer group. If your expectations for your life are higher than those of the people around you, they will pull you down. Create an alternative which meets your needs and which is good for you, for the people around, and serves the greater good. I do understand. It just, just tells you to be around people who are just like-minded and do quite want to achieve as much as you are willing to do, or even they just are willing more than you are willing, and then they just pull you and you will get some sort of successful or rich or whatever as well. Identity is the belief of who you are. One of the strongest needs in life is to, I go through this. So one of the strongest need in life is to remain consistent with your own definition of yourself or ourself, with our identity. Changing identity will create forever change. Who are you is more than anything you can face. What shapes an identity is beliefs, psychology, language, what they focus on, the triad actually, and references. So if you want to change someone's identity, give them an experience which contrasts their identity and limiting beliefs, so you start developing a new set of beliefs. Huge change in psychology, train them to change them consistently and use their body consistently, so it's not just one on-off thing. Change the person physically. In incantation, use the psychology and emotions with it. Incantation is psychology, language and focus, the triad. Create a peer environment in which the only possible identity is the one supported by your environment. Link so much pain to the old identity that they need to change and link pleasure into the new identity or behavior, emotions, patterns. Pleasure is the long-term motivator for long-term as people learn to deal with the pain. And the 7th one is provide a compelling future. And the 8th and last one is help them master new skill. It gives them a sense of growth and the identity expands. I think I will stop there, even though it's only leadership and personal mastery, which are the actual only, the only things that are here. I'm quite sorry that I might not be that good at decoding all the stuff, especially not when I've just slept 5 fucking hours. But I do love you and I do hope that you got something out of it. But I think, you definitely did. Yeah, there was such great information in it. I do think you got something out of it. And I definitely invite you to really listen to the last episode about this topic and just look up all the things you didn't really understand, so that you can be sure that you just really understand it and can use it in your daily life or to change other people's lives. This is, I think, the reason why I am doing it. Yeah, because I do want to help myself and I do want to help other people to get to their greatest. So, I love you lots. There's nothing more that I wish you than ultimate happiness, because with happiness, everything else comes. And therefore, but I wish you health, or actually success, health, wealth, giving back, actually, legacy and happiness. So these are actually my things that I want to have: success, wealth, health. I want to give back, happiness, and the legacy. And by legacy, I just mean like being nice and being like a person who is reminded as someone who was important or whatever until or after I died. And then, or with that being said, I wish you a wonderful day and or actually night, and I see you the next time, and I love you.